Hello and welcome to Seagulls Social, episode 8. I am your host, Maz, and of course I'm joined by my co-hosts, Ben and Ryan. How are we, chaps? We all good?
Yes, very good, mate. Good, mate.
Good. Well, I've been better, mate. I'm actually really struggling with my back at the moment. I actually messaged you boys off air, and I've got a really, really bad back. But enough about me.
It's a close call.
Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't for Craig, I wouldn't be here, to be honest with you. But no, of course, without further introduction, we have got a very, very special guest. Of course, Brighton legend, Craig Mackail-Smith. How you doing, Craig? You all good?
I'm very well. Hope you're all well.
Good. Yeah. Like I say, well, apart from the back pain, I'm all good.
He sent us a picture of him lying down on his floor, Craig. Like he was in serious pain.
So, I'm in pain because the last couple of days I've had sciatica in my back and I couldn't get out of bed.
I've got the exact same
thing. That's literally what I've got. Well, the shooting pain went down my back and then into my legs, and I got a bit worried. I thought it was getting paralyzed or something, and I started freaking out, and then thankfully my girlfriend was with me and she's helped me. She gave me a bit of ibuprofen and some gel and stuff, so fingers crossed I'll make it through the next hour. But if you see me wincing, honestly, please,
it's the worst pain in the world, the worst pain I've ever suffered. Sciatica, it's horrific.
I feel bad. The pain. I understand.
I'm
glad you can appreciate it, Craig.
Yeah, thank you. Right, so without further ado, obviously just to sort of get to know you a little bit more better, and of course, the Brighton fans listening as well. So just from your, the beginning of your career, how did it all start for you? What was the first club you went to, and what was your journey from the beginning, really?
I played a lot of non-league football, Sunday league football with my friends. That was kind of my thing, was just playing with my friends, enjoying it. It was never really looking to get into academies and stuff. It was just enjoy it, play the game. And then just if anything came from it, then wonderful. And I think probably when I was about 9 or 10, I ended up joining Millwall's academy and going there. But obviously, kind of still playing Sunday league football at the time, so it wasn't full time how it is now. It's kind of you could play with both teams. So just kind of more spending time with my friends, playing with my friends was more important to me than kind of really worrying so much. I think as I was getting older, it was kind of getting a bit more important. But at that age, it's just you just have fun running around, scoring goals from all over the place, fun with your friends. And then I think I ended up going to Watford Academy when I was kind of 11 or 12 for a year. And obviously I'm born and bred Watford. It's my team. So that was an amazing experience. But it only lasted one season. So it was kind of really heartbreaking.
Bittersweet, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't make it. I wanted to play for Watford. It was a team supported. I think at the time you had Gifton Noel Williams was coming through, and he was kind of 15, 16, and I was oh, that's what I want to do. And then, and then it's you go back to Sunday league football. It's kind of the dream's over.
And how was that? Just out of interest, what was it like? Obviously, you mentioned Watford being your sort of dream team. Obviously at that age as well. Were you 15? I think you said.
Yeah, 12. Yeah.
Oh, bloody hell! I mean, even worse. So, were you, did you go home cry in bed, or what was it? What was the sort of raw emotions behind that?
It was hard. It was it was. You play football and your kind of local team say they want you to come and be part of the club, and I was thinking, right, this is it. I'm on my way now. I'm gonna years, and I'm gonna get in the first team. And after the season, they just said you're not big enough, you're not strong enough, the typical things that they say. I'm gonna let you go. So yeah, it was really hard to take. It was kind of like telling all your friends, I'm gonna be a queen and stuff like that, and then you're back playing Sunday league football with him. It's kind of hard to take, but you kind of got to get over it quick, because it's these kind of things happen in football so often. It's and when it happens at a young age, it does mentally make you stronger and kind of just work harder.
It's a very brutal industry, though, isn't it? There's so many local lads that I know that have had trials at Brighton, played there for 1 or 2 seasons in the youth ranks, and then they get let go. Obviously, it's been more recent in the news recently. Some kids. I think there was
I was just about to say, wasn't there? Man City player. Yeah. Obviously, it's really sad news that horrible news with the Man City youth player who got released, and he ended up taking his own life, which is obviously a horrible thing to see. And I think you mentioned, Craig, the fact that at that age you're still so young, and you think your football is your world, isn't it? I'm sure you. Obviously, I can't speak myself, but you've obviously been there, at the time, and it must feel like the world sort of collapsed around you. And so, mentally, what sort of advice would you give to younger players out there?
I've kind of looking at it back then and kind of looking at the end of it now. It's kind of it's not the end of the world. It's there's always other opportunities. There's always things that will come from it. Like, I'm a true believer of kind of like one door shuts, another door opens. So but again, it is hard when you're in that moment, and I've been through it. When you're in that moment, like it is the hardest thing in the world, and you've just got to be really mentally tough, and you've just got to have good people around you who can kind of help you through and make you realise that, to say that one, you might not be wanted there, which is kind of the case for me at Watford. I wasn't wanted there, and then in the future, I ended up kind of doing the things I did. So it was just, as I say, you just got to kind of really back yourself, realise there is a bigger world than just football. So if you don't make it, there's so much more opportunity, and there's so many great things that are involved in this world that don't include football. It's hard when you're in that bubble and you're playing football, you get consumed by it and you believe it's everything. But when you kind of step back from it and actually look at the world, there is so much opportunity and so much like life to live.
No, definitely. I mean, I couldn't put it better myself, to be honest. And it's really refreshing to hear from, a professional footballer who's been there, done it, experienced those sort of hardships. So I think, hopefully to our younger listeners that are listening out there that are trying to become professionals, I think it's great advice to give. So no, spot on, really. So just moving away then. So obviously, you went through the ranks, etc. And then. Of course, you made your name. Well, me as a football fan growing up, I remember you and McLean up top for Peterborough, which was just like an iconic. That was like an iconic.
It's like Dwight York and Andy Cole, but for that football league. I'm not even joking. It was iconic.
It was. No, definitely. And I remember watching. I can't remember what the show was at the time, but it was like on. It was available. I think it was BBC. Basically, I used to watch like highlights of you guys like banging them in. So, what was that? What was it like to have that kind of partnership with McLean and obviously other players at Peterborough? What was that like?
It was just an amazing time. I think like when I joined Peterborough, it was kind of, they were the first ones to kind of take players out of non-league. They were the ones that are really going for it. I think when I signed, there must have been kind of 10 they'd taken out of non-league. So, and there were a lot of young players, kind of a few that had been like released from academies. I think Charlie Lee at the time had been released by Tottenham. So they were really pushing forward like that young side that kind of want to build a team for the future. So we all kind of lived around with each other. I lived with Danny Blanchett when he was there, and that was next door to George Boyd, and a few others lived on the estate, and then there was another estate that was closer. So literally we spent every minute, it was mad. We'd train together, we'd go home, go around someone's house, they'd cook, like you do like stupid games to see who does the washing up and all of that.
Who did the most washing up then?
I think it was Charlie Lee. Like he tried to get out as much as he could, but it was. But everyone had their own signature dish of cooking food, so it was a real bond. If we'd go out on a night out, it'd be the whole squad. So we kind of worked hard, played hard, and I think that built such a great like team ethic. And like it wasn't, if you went out, like you came in the next day and you didn't put it in, you were going to get it. Like there was no kind of hiding. And obviously I hit it off right away with Aaron. I knew about him, played against him when he was at Grays, and I knew what he was capable of. He went there a bit sooner than I did, so I kind of watched him and watched his progression and saw how well he was doing. And then we came together, and I can't remember who said it, but someone said we couldn't play together. Someone said we were too similar.
And look at you now.
I know. I'd like to find out who said it, but it was our minds that it was just kind of, we wanted to prove people wrong. We were still kind of like young. We still were really hungry, and we wanted to show people that like we've worked hard to get here, and we can do it together. Like we can complement each other. I think we did that on the pitch, and I think the one good thing about us was, we were both very unselfish. It wasn't like I didn't want to do amazing and score the goals and then kind of like not help him. It was just kind of like, if I'm in a better position, he'll pass it to me, and if he was in a better position, I'll pass it to him. And I think that's why we scored so many goals, because we weren't always looking to score. We were always looking for the best opportunity for someone else to score. Because in my head, it's kind of like, if you score a goal, if I have a shot and someone taps it in, and we go 1-0 up, then more opportunities are going to come to me. If I have a shot and the keeper saves it, it stays 0-0, and no more opportunities might come. So it was always in my head to kind of make sure what is the best option for the team.
Pretty rare for a striker to say that, I think.
I think sometimes you've got to be unselfish. I think you do have to have a selfish streak, definitely. and I think, but when you're in a pair, in a partnership, I think you've got to work together. You've got to kind of, I think when you look at all the best ones throughout like the Premier League, they've always worked really well together. Like I think like Kevin Phillips, Niall Quinn, all you guys, Shearer, Son,
the icons, yeah.
All these teams, they worked well together. They were ruthless when they had opportunities, but they also were unselfish as well. And I think those are the partnerships that work best.
Maybe you need to have a word with Danny Welbeck and Neil Maupay. That'd be great. Just you and McLean need to sit them both down and be like, look, this is how you do it, boys. You've got to pass it now. You've got to shoot now.
Yeah.
I'll arrange that.
Would you ever go into coaching, like, like becoming a coach? Or is that something you've ever looked at?
The thing is, I think the timing for me kind of coming out of football and kind of going into non-league is worked well, because I want to start up my own striker coaching business. So
we need you, mate. We need you.
We can't have barn door.
I'm in a process now. Like it's just kind of it's weird. Like, coming out of football, out of full-time football, has been quite difficult, because it's. I kind of say to people, it's been institutionalized. Like in your prison, you come out and you don't understand the real world. And now I've kind of got I don't have a structure. I don't have people telling me where to be and what to do. And now I'm kind of having to find out like who I really am and how I kind of put things together. So now making business plans and looking at how I push this business forward. So it has been an interesting couple of months. So I'm kind of in the process of building that, and hopefully in the next kind of month, maybe the end of the year, then I'll have it all kind of sorted and good to go, really.
Yeah, that was actually going to be one of our questions. Actually, it's like how you found that transition from being in training every day, being told to do what to eat, all these things that a full-time professional footballer does, and then going into non-league. Where how many times a week do you train? What, 2-3 times?
2 evenings, so Tuesday evening, Thursday evening.
So yeah, that must just be nuts. Like for your brain to process from going in training every day, seeing the lads, and every day, that kind of camaraderie, like you mentioned. Like, yeah, what's been the biggest struggle? I know you mentioned a couple there, finding yourself and stuff, but what's been the biggest struggles? And I suppose, is there also like perks as well? Is there like things that you enjoy not training every day?
Laying in the morning, that's
yeah. I was gonna say, that's a big one.
Must be nice.
It's good. I get to spend more time with the kids and drop the kids off to school and stuff like that, and pick them up. I think like being in and around the players, being in the squad, and you say the camaraderie and kind of that is such a big part of football. And it's like you go in for that, you go in for the banter, you go in for your teammates, and like especially obviously I just left Wickham, and it's one of the best dressing rooms I've ever been in. So it's like it was hard to step away and obviously watch them doing what they're doing now. Is great. Obviously you still want to be there and doing that. So it's tough, and obviously like the training, I've kind of got to discipline myself a bit now. Before it was like I'd go in, I'd have a physio, I'd have like a strength and conditioning coach, have all these people that would look after you and help you out, and obviously you have that dedicated time. So you kind of be in at 9, and you'd have until say 3, and you do all your work in that, and then you come home, and now it's kind of I'm on my own, and I've got to kind of either go to the gym, or I've got to push myself to get out and do extra. Otherwise, it just becomes I'll only ever end up training Tuesday and Thursday.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you mentioned Wickham. So I know Ben wanted to find this out with Akinfenwa. Obviously, you shared a dressing room with Akinfenwa, haven't you? And obviously, he's a big old character. What was it like sharing a dressing room with him?
Oh, he's an amazing guy. Absolutely amazing guy. He's charismatic. He brings dressing room together. He kind of sets the standard. Like he puts it in. He's 38 years old now, so he's the one that like he kind of leads it. If you don't follow his lead, and if you're not putting it in as much as he's putting it in, then you're going to get it. And again, like the whole dressing room is behind him. They all set the same standard, and you can see from what they've experienced and achieved over the last 3 years. It's from like that is. I think the dressing room has been a major factor of driving that club on. Because again, 3 years ago, if you had said Wickham would have been in the Championship, you'd have like thought you're like people. There's no way that's going to happen because of the kind of the situation the club was in, the players that are in there. But it just shows kind of like how well kind of the management staff have done to bring the right kind of people in, and how a dressing room can really dictate how well a team does.
Is it Gareth Ainsworth was the manager? Is the manager?
Yeah.
Is it? So obviously you two had competition for who had the nicest hair. Was there ever like a team vote? Was there ever a team vote who had the best hair?
Oh, he's a good 10 years older than me, and he's still got hold of it. So, like, at the moment, in 10 years to see if I've still got it, and then we'll see.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, best Barnet competition. I think that's definitely an award you'd be in for. Now that actually leads us on really nicely to sort of the next topic we wanted to ask you about. Now, with you, obviously, as Brighton fans, we always used to, when you talk about Craig Mackail-Smith, apart from obviously your footballing ability, the second most talked about thing was obviously your hair, your luscious locks, as some people describe them as. Was there have you always had the long hair? Has it always been like a part of your look, or was that just something you sort of just grown over the years?
Yeah, I think as I've got
grown over the years.
yeah. Sorry, the pun. Yeah, apologies for the pun. No.
I think up until I was about 19, 20, it was quite short, and then I joined. I think I was at Dagenham was quite short. Peterborough, so probably Peterborough was the time I started to grow it.
George Boyd had a bad influence on you then, obviously.
Yeah,
Boydie's done a great job.
He's a great job.
He's done a
I was going to say, it's not one of those like bets, is it? Where strikers, if they don't score, they just let it grow. It wasn't one of those, was it?
You just my beard, not my head.
Oh, okay. So you've done that in the past, then, have you?
No, that's not a problem. Like it's shave your hair off. So, and I've got these that stick out. So sometimes it's a bit difficult.
Is that what you're hiding? You're hiding the ears? Is that what it was?
I tuck it behind my ears and it stays there. So they work well, to be honest.
Yeah. I love that.
I grow it, and then sometimes it just gets to a point where I'm fed up of it, and I'll shave it off. I've done that a couple of times. I've done that a couple of times at Brighton, and once I did it at Brighton and shaved it off. But yeah, I enjoy it. I'm very lucky that I can grow my hair this length, and I've had it for this long, and I'll keep it as long as I can for as long as it stays on my head. See what happens.
Yeah, don't do what I've done and just shaved it all off in a lockdown crisis. Don't do that, because not a good look.
My missus went mental at me because I went out with long hair and I came back with no hair, and then she with me. So I've learned my lesson. We all want.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, with your other half, has she ever had a go at you for chopping it off, or has she ever been angry at you changing the hairstyle up?
We played a game at Peterborough. I played it against Milton Keynes, and I got there a bit early, so I thought I need a little bit of a trim. And I went to the hairdressers, and I was like, "Oh, this is it's getting on my nerves now." So she's doing my hair long, and I just said, "I just shave it all off." So he shaved it. I went back into the ground to see her, and she was like, "Weren't happy."
She lost it.
And I had to go. I was like,
amazing. Well, yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed that doesn't happen again. You just don't need the ag, do you? You just don't need the aggro. It's not needed. But yeah, obviously we haven't really talked much about Brighton. So let's sort of get into that. Of course, signing for Brighton, there was a bit of talk, I believe, with Leicester as well. There's some talk about you joining Leicester, and you obviously chose Brighton because we are the bigger and better club, which makes a lot of sense. What was the actual reasons, apart from my biased reasons? What was the actual reasons behind you choosing Brighton over Leicester?
And I had at the time it was Leicester, West Ham, and Brighton.
Wow.
And I went and talked to. So at the time, Sam Allardyce was the manager of West Ham. I think Sven-Goran Eriksson was the manager.
Jesus Christ! What a selection to pick from!
Brighton. So obviously, it was great to have those clubs involved and wanting to talk to me. And I went and spoke to Sam Allardyce at West Ham. And to be honest, I was really let down and really disappointed because obviously a fantastic club, great history. And I kind of went in there expecting to sit down and talk to him for a while and him to explain all the history and what he wanted from me, how the team was going to play, kind of how he saw me fitting in. And it was literally a 5-minute, this is West Ham, this is what you get. And then at the time, my agent was Scott Parker's agent, and he was like, "Can I speak to your agent? I want to speak to him about Scott Parker." So I was like 5 minutes in there, and I was like,
"Oh wow."
It's not ideal really. So I left there.
A bit of a slap in the face, isn't it?
Yeah, I left there disappointed. And then I met Sven, and again, he didn't quite know who I was or what I did, and he would bring other players in, and it was just again I felt like I'd done really well that season, and expecting a bit more knowledge and a bit more kind of this is what we want from you, this is how we're going to drive the team towards you. And then obviously speaking to Gus, like he loved to talk, and I was with him for about 3 hours, and it was just everything. It was just kind of the enthusiasm, what he wanted from me, and I'm attracted to energy and how people treat me and talk to me, and obviously he had abundance of that, and he explained everything, what he wanted from me, how they wanted to play, like the kind of people they wanted to bring in, where the club wanted to go. So it was like the whole rundown of everything. So that's what drew me to the club. Obviously, with the Amex being built and the kind of the training ground like trying to be built over the next few years, it was a real plan of the club kind of pushing to the Premier League, and I thought it was an exciting opportunity to be something like involved in something that could be amazing.
So what's like the process?
We all tried to speak at one time. Craig, we spoke about this, didn't we, on my live stream back in lockdown, the first one. But when you mentioned that Gus Poyet pull, I think I spoke to Orlando as well back in lockdown, and they speak about how much of an influence Gus Poyet was on their career, and I think Orlando was at Barcelona at some point. So for him to be saying about Gus is, it's quite remarkable. And it's a shame the way Gus sort of left us. But, how would you describe him and how much he had a, impact on your career?
Obviously, like growing up, I see him as a player, and I watched him, and obviously how technically great he was as a player, and he was a winner. He was very passionate, and that came across a lot in his coaching and obviously his dressing room talks and all these kinds of things. And you had a lot to learn from him. He was good. He took the strikers away and did work with the strikers, and he was kind of he was just very good at kind of bringing bits and pieces into your game and kind of showing you what you wanted. And he had that passion, which as a player you want to see from your manager. Like he was passionate on the sideline, and he was passionate in the dressing room. So it was really enjoyable to work with him, and I learned a lot. I learned a different style of football and a different way to play, which kind of probably helped me as I've got older. So yeah, and I really enjoyed my time alongside him.
And did you get your cap? Did you win your first cap for Scotland? Was that whilst you were at Brighton?
No, that was when I was at Peterborough.
Oh right, okay. All right. So you played against Brazil on your debut, is that right?
Yeah.
What a debut that is, yeah.
That's the most nerve-wracking I've ever been. Like meeting teammates and stuff. Like I walked into the hotel because they'd already got there. I think I played a game the night before, and I went down and literally I almost threw up like walking into the hotel.
That's not a good look, Craig. That's not a good look.
You walk in and you think like, I'm playing for Scotland in front of against Brazil in front of like 60,000 people. It was just like, and then you kind of meet like Darren Fletcher and kind of James Morrison, Naismith, and all these people that you watched in the Premier League and stuff. And at the time I was in League One, so it was like it was kind of mad. Far beyond where I'd seen myself at that moment in time. So to go in there is like. Went straight into the lunch hall, and I was sitting there, and my knife and fork were like shaking, and I was trying to put food out, and I was just like, I need to get out of here as quick as possible. And luckily, I kind of got through that, and then to kind of be in the dressing room and like see the Scotland shirt with your name on it, and kind of then go out and see like Neymar and Thiago Silva and Lucio and all these people. It was just like it didn't quite compute in my head. I was like trying to work out like what is going on. It was just so surreal. Again, I was so nervous on the sideline. I had had a bottle of water and I think they were like jelly babies, and I was like eating a little bit of jelly baby and drinking water, trying to keep myself calm. And I went on for the last 5 minutes, and it was just like once I get on the pitch, I'm all right. It's because my brain works too much when I have too much time to think. It goes overboard and goes off on its own. So
sorry, I was just about to say, that's actually a very good point. Like mentally, going into that game, what was you? Because I suffered from anxiety and stuff like that. So exactly what you said about overthinking and thinking too much. When I've got too much time to think, that's when things get bad. Was it just a case of with that going into that Brazil game? Was it just keep calm, get on the pitch, do your thing, and get off? Was it one of those, or was it I'm going to go on and just do my best, really?
Yeah, it was just trying to stay as calm as possible. Like I remember driving up to the ground and. I was that nervous. I had my headphones in, I had my eyes closed, and I was telling myself to breathe. And I could hear all the crowd outside and all the flags and everything. I was like, no, I've got to look at this because this is like an amazing moment in my life, in my career, and I've got to take this head on. So I opened my eyes, looked out the window, saw the crowd, and it was just an amazing scene. And I was so glad I did. But yeah, it's difficult because when you're playing football, your brain switches off. It's just the way it normally is. But when you kind of build up to that, like your brain is on, and then that's when your brain just gets a chance to start thinking thoughts you don't need to think. Like you're going to be sick, you're going to fall down the stairs, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Yeah. It's just a case of trying to control them as best I could, and trying to get on that football pitch as quick as I could. So then everything else would just shut off, and then I could just get on with like playing the game and not worrying. And then once you're off, it's just like it's just a kind of an overload of emotions, and then you're so drained, like physically, mentally, from having to control that throughout the whole day.
Yeah, that's crazy. Go on, Ron.
Gonna like along sort of the similar subject. You mentioned earlier about, as you say, the characters in the game sort of is what gets the best out of you. I think it has to be asked, what was Barry Fry like at Peterborough? It has to be said.
Yeah. He's a character.
Father-in-law, so I've got like he's your.
Oh yeah, he is. Yes, he is.
What?
Yeah.
Wait,
he's her dad. Yeah.
Oh, what? That's mental. No way. I genuinely didn't know that. Shows how much research I've done then. No, that's crazy. So, wow, okay, yeah. Carry on. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, he's amazing. Like, he's amazing. Like before, obviously, me and my partner got together when I was kind of joining Peterborough. He was kind of hounding me and harassing me and trying to make me join Peterborough. And he'd turn up at games and he'd like kind of say, "I've got a contract here. Like, let's sign it." So he was just a big character, and I knew about him through football. And obviously, having someone like that following you around and saying like, "We really wanted you to sign" and stuff is amazing. And he's been massively helpful throughout my career. With decisions and just things that are going on and how to kind of navigate them. Obviously now I'm on the other side of my career, and he's kind of giving me advice on how to do things and just doing the best he can to help me. I'm very lucky to have someone with such like kind of great history within the game to kind of go to and speak to.
If you don't mind me asking, what was the conversation like when you had to say, "Look, Baz,
Baz, yeah,
look, Baz, big Baz, come on, mate. I love you so much."
I didn't say anything. Like at that point in time, I was so shy, and like I wouldn't like say who to do so. I just let my missus tell him, and then in the end we kind of met, and I think because he knows I'm quite a good person, so it was just like he wasn't too worried. And
you're on the bench. You're on the bench on Saturday, mate.
Yeah. That's why I think I performed so well. I had to show that.
That's class. That's amazing. Well, no. And was there any like throughout your career, sort of with that? Was there any sort of moments where Barry like there's some like because like you said, he's a big character. And I remember recently there was a viral clip that went around where he didn't answer his phone. First of all, we had a match of the day tone, which was class. And then he didn't pick up the phone, and he said, I think it was David Sullivan trying to call him, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to wait till after." So is there any other sort of moments where you've sort of looked and thought, "What a guy! Like what a character!" Is there any other sort of moments that have done that?
The good thing about Barry is he's like. He's just him. He doesn't care what people think about him. He just does what he does. He's polite with everyone that meets him and talks to him. Everyone loves seeing him. It was, I think, the time he went to Wembley, and he was kind of up and down walking around, and he was talking to people. And then he was just having a chat with a guy, and I was like to my missus, like he's talking to Monty Panesar there, like it's like just having a chat. I wonder what they're saying. And then he come over, and Amber said, "Oh, like you've been chatting to Monty Panesar, like what was he saying?" And he's like, "I don't even know who he is. I was talking to his mate."
That's brilliant. Well, Monty Panesar is a bit of a Sussex legend, isn't he? I remember him playing for Sussex. Yeah. So yeah, go on.
No, he's brilliant. As I say, like. He helped me deliver my first child as well. So it's
wow. Wait, what? He was actually in the delivery room with you?
We went in the delivery room. We didn't make the hospital.
No way.
Oh. Yeah. So we ended. So my partner was due the day of the England-Scotland game. So this is like after I'd kind of got injured, so I wasn't involved. So I came home. She was in the bar, thought nothing of it, and went down and watched the football. And then she was like, "Yeah, we're gonna have to get to the hospital." And at the time, Barry and his wife were at the England-Scotland game, So she had to ring them and tell them to come down for the game. Got down to our house, rang the hospital, and they said, no, like you're a first time mother, like don't worry about coming in, like it'll be a while. I get back in the bath. Got back in the bath. Within about 30 minutes, the baby was coming. Like there was no ambulance. It was just me and Barry and there, and we literally delivered the baby like on our own.
Wow. That's crazy. What a story that is. Imagine that, like, obviously as his story, you can tell his grandkids be like, yeah, you know, I delivered you, helped deliver you.
That's the most calmest I've ever seen Barry. He was calmer than me. Like he was like, probably I thought he'd be flapping and he'd be shouting and in the house at that point in time. So it was an amazing experience. I wouldn't take it back now, but obviously at the time it was just the scariest things I've ever been through.
Imagine telling yourself when you joined Peterborough that was going to happen a few years down the line, that you were going to be sat in the bathroom with Barry doing that. Like, you must have thought, no chance. No way.
I wouldn't have believed it. I thought someone would have been winding me up.
I think you're winding us up. I can't believe it.
I was just about to say, I'm not having it, Craig. I'm not having it. But that's incredible. That's actually incredible. It's definitely one for the grandkids. That's class. But no, and just going back as well to your time at Stevenage as well. Obviously, there was a big sort of time that we talked about, like there's a deal for $2.5 million for the kit, you know, the Burger King iconic. Well, we call it iconic. It was a bit of a sort of a tricky one. Were you sort of aware that was happening, and like what were your sort of thoughts on that? Because obviously, for people that don't know, your sponsors were Burger King, and you had the sort of the stripy red and white tops, and it was quite a lot of uproar on social media. Well, not uproar, but people were just a bit baffled by it all. What was your thoughts on it all? Like, were you happy with it?
To be honest, it was just play football. Like I wasn't getting involved in any of the other stuff. The kit wasn't the nicest. The massive, obviously, the big Burger King thing over the front. Which healthy athletes, and we've got Burger King on the front.
I was about to say that. Yeah, it's a bit of a contradicting sponsor, isn't it?
It wasn't the greatest. So for me, I didn't really pay any attention. I was just there to play football, and obviously, I think they've done pretty well out of it from that, which is great.
FIFA challenge.
Yeah, it's great because these clubs need all the help they can get. Like down at that level, it's whatever kind of sponsorship or advertising that they can get is massively helpful, because we want them to all survive. It's the whole reason we love English football. Like our pyramid of football is the best in the world, and if the clubs like that go out of business, then we're in big trouble. So for the club, it's fantastic. So and hopefully more things like that can happen for clubs at that level.
So we're seeing a lot of that struggle. Sorry, Ben, go on.
No, mate, you go. It's fine.
I was saying we're seeing a lot of the struggle at the minute, isn't it? With the whole COVID impact, the whole fans aren't allowed in. I know a lot of the people at Crawley, and they say that it's a big hit on them. You know, for the Premier League clubs, I mean, we're probably in sort of the position where we can be classed as that now. But the whole no fans, that these clubs rely on match day revenue. So for a club like Stevenage to have that sort of thing was probably huge for them, because. Yeah, absolutely. I think
even for the bigger clubs, I'd say, Ryan. I think even
that's
like true, $2.5 million. Like, it's quite a lot of money.
It was actually $2.5 million earned media, so that was after the sponsor. So obviously, whatever Burger King paid Stevenage to sponsor it in the first place, then it was $2.5 million after that, because of all the whole coverage it got. And so it was such a massive deal on Ultimate Team or FIFA, because all these millions of kids were using that Stevenage kit and playing with players like Messi, Ronaldo. So I think one of the Stevenage marketing guys was like, never thought Stevenage would be signing Ronaldo and Messi. Never getting Ronaldo to wear the Stevenage kit, but because of the unbelievable branding that they've done. So they've absolutely
sold out. They sold all their shirts out from that as well. I think.
Wow.
I remember, which is again, it's fantastic. It's like these things, these ideas need to be put forward as much as they can to those clubs, because. Say, like you think of all the players that have come from those levels that are now internationals. I think I saw a mad stat the other day with the England team. They had the England team that played recently had more appearances in the EFL than they did in having the Premier League.
Yeah, that's
mad.
Wow.
That shows how important it is. You take that away, then our international team, and especially like the Premier League would struggle.
No, definitely.
I agree.
No,
I agree.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. It just shows. Yeah, like you said, it just shows how important the lower leagues are, just to develop, like not only the development of football, but just like to the big teams as well in the Premier League. Like you see so many big Premier League teams send their scouts out to non-league, and look at Jamie Vardy. He was playing non-league till what, he's 27. So it just shows like how important that is.
He's doing bits as well.
Yeah, smashing it. But no, it's a very, very interesting subject, and I'm sure we can probably go on about it all day long. But so moving on to sort of the Brighton era, and we got quite a lot of questions from Instagram. So we put the question out, obviously saying that you're a guest, and we got a lot of questions in for you. You're a very popular man, so we've got a lot of questions. We'll try and get through as many as we can. So we'll kick off first with this one then. So obviously back at your time this is from Connor Strong on Instagram. After such a long time out, what did it feel like when you assisted Ulloa versus Forest?
Oh, it was amazing. Like, it was a real hard period. Like being injured, especially the injury I've got, was just it was kind of career changing. It changed who I was as a player. It was a real difficult one. Even though I got through it, coming out on the other end of it, it was just like I knew it changed me as a player. It had taken something away from me that I'd had previously. So to kind of come back to still be playing, and obviously to get that opportunity to come on on that last game, and then obviously to stick the cross in. I was getting annoyed because I was watching the clock and I was waiting for Oscar to stick me on, and I was getting more annoyed and sticking down. And I knew what the result was at Reading, and I was like, I was just trying to keep myself calm because I was getting really angry about not sticking me on. And then obviously he stuck me on with about, I think it must be about 3 or 4 minutes to go. And it was literally just do the best I can, whatever I can do, just help as much as I can. And then obviously Kaz gave me the ball out wide, and I know how good Leo is in the box. And as a striker, it's kind of like just put the ball where I'd want it to be. As soon as I hit it, I knew I'd put it in the right area. And obviously to see him head it in was just amazing. And it was just such a kind of a big relief after everything I'd gone through to kind of come out at the other end and then do that. And obviously, see the emotions and the scenes in the away end at Forest was just amazing.
Maybe it's obviously that selflessness you earned or learnt with working with McLean has obviously paid off. You thought, right, I need to whip the best ball in here for my strike partner. So all those years with McLean obviously paid off for Brighton. So
it's always the way. Like that's always how I've been. It's not so much always about me. I want to be a striker and I want to score goals, but it's like you want to win and helping others. Score goals and kind of lifting them up helps you win as well. So it's a team game. It's not an individual game, and that's how I've always been driven to play.
And you mentioned you heard the Reading result. So I've always been interested about that. Like, do you have a radio? How did you get that information? Did someone tell you? Or
I think we had a radio, and I think we might have had a phone at the time. I think like we were in communication with someone, and they were telling us like what the scores were and stuff. Off the crowd's reaction as well, like you could hear when the results were going well for us, and obviously I kind of knew where it was before I came on, and I think the whole second half warming up, trying to get in his eye line and trying to get myself on.
Imagine him like prodding him, like, come on.
But I think I kept getting in his way, but it was just.
It's so funny, that Reading game. Do you remember they all stood? And they had a big pitch invasion, and then they had to stop because we had just scored, and so they had to come off. And then they're getting it all from the Burnley fans, chucking it back at them. I think it was just absolute madness. But oh my god, imagine being a Reading fan that night and you just storm the pitch, and all of a sudden you see we've scored.
Knowing you're the reason for that, Craig. That
how do you feel about that, Craig?
It happens, doesn't it? Like it happens in football. It's funny to see. It's kind of like you just got to be careful not to celebrate early, and obviously our game was still going on, and they thought they'd done it, and this with football we can go to the last kick of the game, and for us it did kind of that day, and it kind of worked out for us.
Callum Tully asked, so it's probably a pretty straightforward question, was that the best assist of your career?
I think so. It's got to be. I can't see I did many as good as that. That was such an important time. I think that's probably right out there, definitely.
Nice. And then the next one we've got here. So this is a very sort of interesting one. We spoke off air about this one, so we're quite excited to hear about your answer on this one. So as Brighton fans, we don't really hear a lot about Sami Hyypiä and what his man management and coaching was like. So can you shed any light on like what he was like as a gaffer? Because obviously we all know he was a great player for Liverpool. You know, he's quite iconic for them. But as a manager, what was he like?
He was good. He was really good. He was a great guy. Really good guy to talk to, and he was very good with ideas and stuff. And I just think he was ahead of his time, to be honest. Like if you look at how Liverpool play now, is how he tried to implement that fashion into Brighton. Kind of, he wanted the left back and the right back to get on. He wanted the kind of the midfielders to sit deep and kind of form a box. And it was, when he came in and we played Leeds United away, I think we had 70% possession at Ellen Road and we beat him 2-1. And at that point, you're thinking, well, we're going to storm the league. Like we looked awesome. And as I said, I think he was just ahead of his time because I think teams worked us out. I don't think we quite had the quality of player to kind of do that. And obviously Liverpool do. But I just, as I say, I think he was a very good coach. He had the right idea. It was just, I don't think it was the right time for him to implement that idea. It was hard for him.
Yeah, because I remember at the time, like Brighton fans gave him a lot of stick, and myself included, I'll put my hands up and admit that. Yeah, at the time, I remember just giving him a lot of grief because obviously I think we weren't getting the results, and apart from the games like you said, the Leeds games, for example. But apart from that, I personally didn't see much, what his vision was. But obviously, I think that shows the disparity between you as a player, because you see it day in, day out. You see his methods, you see everything like that. Whereas us fans only just see what happens on the pitch. So, yeah, was that frustrating to see him, not given a fair chance or stay as long as he did?
Yeah, it was difficult. And obviously, as players, we have to take the responsibility of not performing on the pitch. He gave us all the tools we needed and explained the formations and stuff like that. And it was just, obviously, as players, we didn't kind of take it on the pitch and perform as best we could. It was a shame, obviously, he left. But also then it's kind of, how long do you give him? Because obviously we were in trouble at the time. So it was a hard decision, I think, for him to go. And as I said, down the line, you can see that style that Liverpool plays, what he tries to implement, and he was ahead of his time. But as the club, and first and foremost, is the most important thing, and that needs to stay where it needs to stay. And ultimately, if the players don't perform, more often than not, the manager's the one that gets the chop.
I think that's pretty similar to what's happening with us at the minute, isn't it? With Potter, I think we're dominating games, but we're not getting the results. Unfortunately, it's a results business, and the manager does get the sack, and that's the sad reality of it. But as you say, with that season, was it hard for you personally? For obviously the season before, we did so well, we got to the playoffs. We had Oscar, and then he left for whatever reason, and then we've got Hyypiä in, things change, people, players come and go. And then we come, 21st, I believe, that season. So we've gone from 6th to 21st. For the players, like for yourself that were there that season before and the season before that, how different was that, coming so low in the table?
Yeah, it was difficult. I think that through kind of Gus and Oscar, we dominated a lot of games. We had loads and loads of possession. You'd get quite a few chances. And it's from going from that, and then obviously then you have Sami's style, and obviously we did go forward a lot, and then when teams worked us out, it became a lot more difficult formation to play. So it was hard for me. It was difficult. I obviously come off the back of the injury and finished the season, played a few games, and then I was hoping to kind of play a lot more, have a lot more of a role and stuff, and played probably more football, and it didn't quite happen. I think I had a couple of really good games and against Bolton, and then I was kind of in and out.
Yeah, remember that one.
And then I think he brought in Darren Bent, which is obviously a fantastic forward to kind of lead the line, and that kind of meant I had to kind of go and find football elsewhere for a bit, because it was I was trying to find myself again. As I say, as a player, I'd lost something that I'd had previously. I don't know whether it was sharpness or that acceleration, or maybe in my mind it might have affected me slightly. And so I was kind of like, I needed somewhere where I was going to play consistently, so I could kind of get, I could find actually who I was as a player again, and kind of get myself strong to kind of push on.
Yeah, no, definitely. No. It sounds like, it's one of those things where, first of all, just from your front, getting injured and whatnot, that can sort of impact you, can't it? Like mentally and physically, like you mentioned. So, and then having different styles of managers, like it just seems, I don't know from experience, but I'm sure it's just all these sort of factors that we don't sort of maybe think about sometimes when we might, really dig into a player and be like, why is he not performing? Why is he not doing that? And we don't think about what you guys are going through. And, it's very refreshing to hear from your side of things as to why.
People understand, I think, because say you guys only really see us maybe on a Tuesday or a Saturday, and we roll out and we play a game and we play well or we don't play well, and it's kind of like 1 week you might play well, then you might not play, and you're kind of going, what's going on? Why are you doing that? And for us in the background, there's loads of different challenges going on. Obviously, the challenges of home, injury, like maybe not playing, maybe the manager likes you, doesn't like you. There's so many factors that are going in throughout the week that you're kind of having to deal with, and then obviously you need to turn up and play on a Saturday or a Tuesday, and obviously that's what makes great players. They can kind of put that together consistently week in, week out without actually kind of letting those things affect them. But more and more now, you see a lot more players, they maybe not performing as they should do, and there's obviously things that happen in the background that it's hard for people to say, oh yeah, I've had a sleepless night because my little girl's been up, or I've had this and I've had that. People say, oh, they don't want to hear those excuses. They just want you to turn up on Saturday at 3 o'clock and bang a hat trick in. But you might till 3 o'clock in the morning. It is difficult, but again, we're privileged and we get paid good money to kind of put them things aside and turn up on those days and perform.
So touching on things behind the scenes now. It's a touchy subject that a lot of Brighton fans are confused about. Arch Warner asks, what are your thoughts on Poo-Gate? Like, what happened? Just basically, that's what he asked. Weren't my words, but are you allowed to touch on that? What happened? Do you know what happened behind the scenes?
I know that the rumour I heard was that the driver, the Crystal Palace driver, was busting for the toilet or something, and he was the one that ruined the toilet, and then they used that as like the management of Palace used it as ammunition to say like that was what Brighton did to you, and kind of use it as a mental trick. This is what I heard. I don't actually. But that's a clever thing to do. That's a clever thing to say this is what they've done, and like that like winds you up. And obviously, because it's such a big rivalry as well, and it was such a massive game, those little things can make the difference. And obviously, as I say, I don't quite know, and whether we'll find out what the real reason is, I don't know. But that's what I heard, and to say if that's what they did, then it's a good mental way of getting their team going.
So that's a lot better than what I heard. I heard that it was one of the Brighton coaches, I don't want to name names. Apparently they went in the dressing room, the Palace dressing room, and left it in the middle of the dressing room. That's the rumor that I heard.
Not to name names, Charlie Oatway, but
camera somewhere.
Yeah, I was going to say, surely there must have been someone who could verify this story. But basically, just to clarify, Craig, you didn't see any physical evidence of this.
No, I didn't see anything. I was, to be honest, I was probably in the gym training, or because at the time I was injured, so I wouldn't have been anywhere around it at that time. I would have kind of turned a little bit later. So, but then it was all going off, and there was lots of obviously talk about it, and obviously coming from their dressing room. So to say, I think ultimately that helped push them across the line. I think that gave them that extra incentive.
That mental warfare.
Yeah.
It is mental that kind of situation can help them beat us in the playoffs. Like it's a shame how it happened.
It still hurts to this day.
I think the players as well would have had a big factor, but no, obviously the Poo-Gate wasn't ideal, was it? But no. So anyway, moving on swiftly. What was your favourite? So this is from TB14. What was your favourite thing about Brighton? So as a city and also as a team.
As a city, I just loved how different it was. You met so many different people from different walks of life. Like you could be anyone you wanted to be in Brighton, and no one would bat an eyelid. It was amazing. I'd love to spend time down the lanes, and I'd see people kind of dressed up in old 1940s stuff. Like it was amazing, and no one bat an eyelid. You just normal people walking around doing their thing, and I just loved how everyone was accepted. So it was such a great kind of happy place to be, especially kind of when the sun came out. The whole place just went mental, and like you'd have hundreds of thousands of people kind of descending on there, and it was just a great atmosphere, a great place to be around. And with the club, like I just love the club, like the facilities, the players, the fans. Just it was a fantastic like time for me. And obviously, I knew the club was progressing. I knew where the club wanted to go, and I knew that they were going to get there. Like the way Tony Bloom was backing the managers, and obviously putting all his money in to build a stadium. And just as my last season, he built the new training ground. So for me, it was trying to be there and being part of it and take the club to the Premier League, and it wasn't quite meant to be for me. But obviously, a few years later, it happened, and I'm over the moon and ecstatic that the club's done it, because, as I said, I knew it would happen, and it's just obviously great to see them there.
That's class. It's really good. It's really nice to see that, you know, you still care, and like, you know, you don't have to, you know, you've got every right just to, once you've cut ties with a club, you don't have to, like, you know, speak well of them, or, you know, particularly enjoy their successes. But I think it's really refreshing to see, and it's nice to hear that obviously you had a very positive time, and you know, I think it's fair, I think I speak for a lot of Brighton fans, you had a big impact on our club. So, you know, the fact that, you know, the things you've done for our club had a big impact, you know, whether big or small, into where, you know, where we are now. So yeah, we're forever indebted to you, Craig. You're playing yourself down.
I went through periods where I didn't score, and obviously I went through periods where I was out for a long time, and the fans are always behind me. There was never any kind of negative comments towards me, or why aren't you doing this, or why aren't you scoring? Like, it was always positive, and it was always friendly, and it was refreshing, because as a player, you don't mean to get injured, and as a player, you don't mean to miss goals, and you don't mean to do all these things. These things happen, and maybe you are good enough, maybe not good enough, but you always try. And that was always my case. I'd always work my arse off and put my heart and soul into playing for the club. And say, to have that like reciprocated from the fans, like that's why I have so much like love for the club.
I think, to be fair, like, because it was obvious that you worked so hard during a game. I mean, whenever I think of, if you say the name Craig Mackail-Smith, I instantly think of someone who just doesn't stop running, always running,
absolute workhorse.
Just always running, always darting in behind, chasing channels, whatever you're doing, you're always running. And I think that's probably why, like, you see so many players, they get fans have to stick on all the time now. Like, especially with social media, it's way easier just to tweet whatever you want. But, you know, with the player that works hard, you can't get on someone's back that works hard, I don't think, anyway. Because if you've got a player who shows he doesn't care, like, looks like he couldn't be bothered, rather just move, he's only here for the money. So that's the thing. Like, if you work hard, you've got the fans' respect instantly, as far as I'm concerned.
I remember, was it just literally the other week? I don't know if you guys saw it with Messi. You know, when he was like walking around. I think it was like, to be fair to him, it was like the 85th minute, but he was like walking around, and he got so much stick online. They're like, "Oh, Messi's so lazy," and like, he's like the greatest player ever. You know, and he's getting stick on social media for not running about for 5 minutes. So no, it's a crazy world. But no, I definitely, what Ryan, just to reiterate what Ryan said, I think if you show that you're, you know, putting in those runs and, you know, working hard all the time, you can't slate someone, because if they're putting in the effort, you know, you can't have anything bad to say about them. So
speaking about social media, I remember the day we signed you, Craig. I was handing out leaflets for my mum's hairdressing business around like the local town.
Naughty little plug there, Ben.
Yeah. If you want a haircut, Craig, just come down. We never really were on Sky Sports at that time in our history, really. And so I just got a notification on my phone from Sky Sports saying Brighton signed Craig Mackail-Smith for 3.5 million. I was just like, oh my god, this is mental. Like, one, because we're on Sky Sports, and two, because we signed you, because I didn't think it was going to happen. I just remember that, just sitting down on the street, just when it popped through. I just remember that really clearly, signing you. It was great. It was a great day. Great day for my mum's business as well.
So the next question then, we've got to talk about. So this is from Ollie Payne. What was your best goal that you scored for Brighton in your opinion?
I have to be the overhead kick against Burnley.
I was going to say that. It had to be.
It was just like that. that kind of start of that season, I was just on fire. Everything I was hitting was going in, and I just remember Bruno just kind of swinging the ball in, and it was kind of going away from me, and I just thought that was the only thing I could really do. I couldn't bring it down and swivel and hit it, so I just threw myself at it, and I kind of felt it hit my foot, and then I hit the floor and see it go in the back of the net, and it was just amazing. It was just a great feeling, and then obviously ran off, celebrated. And then I had in my head of just about to do a knee slide, and then I remember I was only going to stop. I injured my knee doing a knee slide. And so
oh no!
Doing a knee slide, I turned into a weird.
It's like that, whatever you call that.
Yeah. And just on the subject of Burnley, we got another question from Uncle Cogs. How did the Amex crowd fire you and the team up against Burnley after receiving 2 red cards?
Just the noise, just like the support. You look at the football now, and I've had a chat with someone the other day and said, like, you look at the table, all the teams that struggle with crowds are doing really well, and all the teams that struggle with, like, who love pressure, are finding it really difficult. And so it just shows how much of an influence the crowd is, like, within football matches. And as you say, at the time when we're down to 9 men, and they literally just drove us through. It just gives you more energy. It pumps you up, and you just, like, you'll run through a brick wall. And it was just a massive kind of boost, which you need. And I'd say without fans at the moment, teams and players are finding it really, really hard to kind of reach those levels that they would normally reach. And it's helpful for some players because, like, there's no crowds, there's no one battering them if they hit a shot over, or they don't cross one in or whatever. They can just get back in their position and go again. But whereas if there's 40,000 people shouting at them, they might go into their shell. Then on the other side, you've got players of, like, say, Kevin De Bruyne and people like that who thrive playing in front of 60,000 people and thrive with people kind of throwing abuse at them. And I think they're finding it difficult to perform at their best. So you don't have to kind of underestimate how big a role fans play in football games.
On behalf of all fans, Craig, you're welcome.
I think I've got to ask the question on the subject of that game. Although we lost 1-0, I remember it, and I think Tony Bloom said it was the best game at the Amex during that era of time. Would you agree with him, or would you say anything else during your time specifically at the club? You know, your favourite Amex era moment, because I remember Tony said that the Burnley one, despite, you know, the result, the fans was the reason why it was his favourite game.
Yeah, I'd say that. I think we played Leeds a couple of times, and there were some great games against Leeds. But yeah, I think that does stand out to me. I had a few chances which I could have scored. I think I could have scored right.
Yeah.
We won't talk about that, Craig. We won't talk about that. But the crowd, it was fantastic. Say to have, it must have been 23,000 people at that time, kind of willing us on, and it was like just cheering us through, and it was almost kind of a great comeback. And it does stick out in the mind. There are certain games you look back at, like, in your career and stuff, like, and when I look back at my Brighton career, and those games like that do stand out.
Was it a hat trick against Leeds? Did you score? Was it a
no, just a penalty. Thanks for reminding me.
Cheers, Ben.
So it should have been a hat trick. That was
yeah. I took a penalty, scored it, and then I took another one, and I think he saved it.
I remember now.
Disappointing in the first hat trick at the Amex, and but
you scored a nice goal in that game, though, Craig. If I remember, the little turn and the right-footed shot.
Yeah. No, I remember. And then I think at Barnsley, I think that was another. I think there was 2 games, weren't there? 2 games we drew 2-2 with them.
Something like that. Yeah,
I think those were good games at the Amex. It was always great being at the Amex. Like, to the crowd, that, like, the pitch was massive, which I love as a footballer. I love playing on huge pitches because it lets me run as far as I can go, and it's a fantastic stadium. So, unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to get back there at all. Like, since I've left, it's kind of with football, it takes over, and I've always been like, all the teams I've been at, I've been like, let's draw them in the cup, let's get them in the cup, let's hope we get them in the cup and that. So hopefully now, like, obviously once the restrictions and everything kind of die down and we can kind of get fans back in, and I'll have the opportunity to get back there, because it is an amazing place. I'd love to be in there.
I mean, I'm sure all the fans will give you a great reception if and when we do go back eventually, some point in the future.
100%.
That half-time touchline interview that the guys always do at the
yeah.
You'll be
Who's the guy who does that? Who's the guy who does that?
Richard Reynolds.
Well, there you go. Yeah, the iconic halftime interview. You get that in. All right. Well, yeah. Thank you very much, everyone who sent their questions in via Instagram. Unfortunately, we can't go through every single one of them because we had a lot. And just quickly as well, the Sami Hyypiä question was from Jack Healy. I forgot to say his name there. So yeah, that was from Jack Healy. So there's a segment we play, Craig. Well, I say we play. We've done it once with Andy Naylor.
Done it once with our only guest so far.
You did get a mention in it last week, though. Andy Naylor
you
still
did.
Yeah.
You did actually, yeah. So basically, the segment is so we ask you to build your perfect player, but only using Brighton players. So we're going to give you 6 categories, and then you're going to give us the person for that category. So, and what I'm going to do, just as a sort of like a Brucey bonus, you can pick yourself for any given category if you want to.
All right. Pick present players or
past or present.
Pick present.
Yeah, past or present. Whether they're playing or just as long as they're Brighton players, it's all good. Okay. So first of all, then this is very close to your heart. Finishing.
I'd say mine at the time wasn't great, but I'd say Leo at the time. Leo was on fire when I was there. So
okay, nice. You show it, yeah. Okay. Cool. Nice. What was it about? Like, what was it? Was it first time finishing, long range? Like, what was so good about his finishing?
It was just like because he was a big guy. He could move himself so well. He could get himself in great positions. Obviously, he could finish with his head. He had a good left foot and right foot. He was quicker than you actually realised. He was very good. Like he came in, obviously he was a good player, and then obviously he went off to Leicester and won the Premier League, and you could kind of see the improvement that he'd done. But he's always in the right place. To say for a big guy, he could manoeuvre himself really well and get him. And he scored the first hat-trick at the Emirates. So he's finishing.
Huddersfield.
Yeah. Nice knowledge there, Ryan. Love it.
4-1 win.
Look at that. Right,
we'll forget about that.
yeah. So the next one is speed. Who do you think is the fastest Brighton player, past or present?
Speed. Is it the young fullback? Is it Lamptey?
Tariq Lamptey. Yeah.
Yeah, his speed is ridiculous. Like
it's unbelievable.
Wenger was ridiculously quick as well, and then obviously Will Buckley. That would be an interesting race. Them three. Obviously.
So, what was the first person you said? Sorry, I couldn't quite hear it.
Kazenga.
Kazenga. Yeah, nice. Yeah.
In the Premier League, he's actually tearing past people, which is phenomenal, and he's so young. So, I'd have his pace all day long.
I think we said last week that everyone's going to pick Lamptey. Whenever we have a guest everyone's going to pick Lamptey's speed.
Yeah. Lamptey was picked last week and he's picked this week. So there you go. The next one, footballing IQ.
Footballing IQ. Is it just because they're clever or they understand football?
It's very subjective, this one. You can interpret it however you want.
I would say they're footballing understanding. It's the way they sort of read the game.
I think I'm trying to go through all the people that have come up, like Vicente probably.
Yeah.
I just think his ability to keep the ball on the other side of you was ridiculous. Like you'd go from one side, and because he was so good both feet and he was so well balanced, he could kind of keep the ball on the right side if you're on your left, and then he could switch it if you came the other side. And it was impossible to get near him. And then like his finishing, like his touch, his movement, you could understand why he had played at such a high level. And but kind of to spend the time we did with him, and obviously you only ever got to see maybe 70% of him. I don't think he was ever fully fit, which was the shame, because I would have loved to have seen him in full flow, like fit. 70%.
What was he like in training? Was he
just hard to get better? Yeah, it was just like he just glide past people and you couldn't like tackle him, and then like finishing wise, he could like slot it in the corner, he could pull it, he could go round the keeper. He just had kind of everything that you'd expect of like a Spanish player. Like they were brought up with that way of looking after the ball and knowing where to put their body, knowing where to put their touch. knowing how to read the game and what positions to get into. And I think he was early 30s when he came, so his footballing brain was fantastic.
Do you remember what the reaction was maybe from you and the squad? So do you remember the first day of training, or when you heard the rumours that you might be signing him? Do you remember the reaction from yourself and the players?
I think it was just like Googling him, because like we were also. I think that we never really spoke too much to kind of Spanish football and stuff like that, and then you kind of see like who he is and what he's done, and then you find out like Real Madrid tried to buy him for, I think it's like 34 million.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, like this guy, he's got to be some player. And when he come in and he kind of started doing what he was doing, you were kind of like, wow, like blown away. And as I say, it was just a shame that we never got to see more of him, because I think he would have, he could have just stayed fit, and I think he would have kind of brought so much more to the team. But it just wasn't meant to be.
Okay, cool. And then the next one, leadership / heart, or like, basically being a leader. Yeah.
I'd probably say Adam Alab.
Nice. Yeah, definitely.
He's Brighton through and through. That came through the youth ranks. Like that's his club, and I know I'm close with him, and I still talk to him, and I know he still lives in the Brighton area and that. And like when you used to play against him, I played against him previous to joining Brighton, and obviously with Brighton, and he would just kind of he'd throw his body in the way. He'd put his life on the line for that team, and he'd organise. And I think like as time went by, he became a better player. Like I think with Gus kind of teaching him and showing him to how to kind of get the ball down and play. He improved so much as a player, and he went on to represent Egypt national level. So I think like for me, like he'd be like the heart and soul.
Yeah, and the fact he looked like a nutter as well, that probably definitely helps. Like when he stepped on the pitch.
He's now grown his hair. I know we keep going back to hair, but he's grown his hair now, isn't he? Was that anything to do with you, or we
spent a few good years together? We went Brighton, then we went to Wickham, and then we've been at Stevenage. So,
that's true. Yeah,
he's followed you about. Craig.
I hang his phone calls up, everything, but he finds me.
he's touching. He's man tight, isn't he? He's used to defending all the time.
I played for Peter when he plays for Brighton, and he's trying to mark me. It was like he's great. These things like with football, to kind of keep in contact with people and move from club to club, it's wonderful, because you make great friendships when you're in a team, and then when you kind of go away from that team, like football moves on, life moves on, and you kind of lose contact, and maybe 6 months, a year down the line, you kind of get back in contact with these people. So to have like these close friendships is great.
What was the biggest bromance you ever had at Brighton? What was the biggest friendship you had?
Will Buckley was one. He used to live like 2 doors down from me, so we were close, and we'd go and play golf loads, and then Ad would come as well. So I got really bucks, and then obviously he went off, and you kind of lose a bit of contact with these people. And lucky enough, you got social media, and you kind of text there, but people's lives moves on so fast. And with football, the seasons come and go so quick. It's kind of like you blink and the season's gone, and you haven't spoken to someone for a year. So it's mad when you're in someone's pocket for 24/7 for however long. Yeah. All of a sudden, you don't get to speak for a while. So it is a strange industry.
Yeah, that's mad. Okay, but no, it's good. It's good to see that you had a couple of bromances along the way. Big Adam Alab. Hopefully, we'll try and get him on the pod and see what he has to say about following you around. Yeah. And then, so the second to last category is so we mentioned it. You were actually nominated for this one by Andy Naylor. So work rate.
Yeah, I don't think there's many that would
take that crown off you.
Yeah. No, I things for me, it's always been work rate. I've always worked as hard as I can. Like I've never seen myself so much as like a really technically skillful player. Like I've always worked really hard at my game, like my finishing, my hold up play, like strength, speed, everything. It's never really come. Like I've never had it completely natural. I've had to really work and hone it and kind of improve those little bits.
Like Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, very similar. similar, just like looking at myself, and I'm very good at kind of understanding what I need to do and how I need to do it, and where that will put me. So throughout my career, it's always kind of finding the best methodologies, kind of weights wise, speed wise, like all these different things that will give me that extra kind of 1 or 2% that might make a difference. And then it's just going on the pitch and leaving it all on the pitch. My kind of philosophy was always to kind of go out there and give it everything I've got, because again, you never know, with one tackle or whatever that happens, you might never play football again. And I never wanted to come off a football pitch, or never wanted to finish football and look back and go, well, that day I could have probably worked a bit harder, or that day I could have done a bit more. I'd rather come off and go, I give everything I got. It took me to wherever it took me, and I can't ask much more of myself. Like, there's literally physically no more I can do, and then I can look back at myself and go, thanks football for everything you did for me and gave to me. I gave you everything I've got, and then I'm moving on to my next venture.
Nice, perfect.
Andy,
respect.
Sorry, Naylor said something pretty interesting about the work rate. So he said that you were the guy for the work rate, but he also mentioned that it's quite an odd one, because surely footballers, this is what Andy said, surely footballers should be working as hard as they can every single day. So what would you say to that he was saying, well, surely their work rate should be at the highest level it can be every single game? So, yeah, what would you say to Andy?
It's difficult, because every player is different. Every player you look at, like, maybe working at their maximum. Like, just like for my case, it was the fact that I could run for ages and I could sprint for ages and I could literally do all that. And then, just an example, like Mesut Ozil, like, unbelievable technically, got amazing ability, and people say he doesn't work hard enough. But how do they know he's not working hard? How do they know he's not working at his maximum? Like, that, what you might see of him, it might be his maximum that he can actually give you. But obviously, on top of that, he's got all the other qualities. So it's a hard thing to judge. It's a hard thing to say, I run around and look at Macca's work rate. It's amazing. Everyone's got to emulate that. But you can't. You can only work as hard as you can physically work. So it's all kind of subjective to the player, and then actually how hard they can work. And then again, it's all down to as well, how hard are you willing to work, like within your position and in your sport, within your chosen, whatever you decide to do. It's like, that's on you. So and then that becomes like a self-pride thing. So I think it's very hard to suggestively say everyone should be working as hard as they can, and like, kind of, you can't prove that. You just got to but you can't actually say, again, as I said, you can't say that person is not working as hard as you can. He might be, but he might not be working as hard as you want him to be working.
Yeah. No, definitely. And funny you should mention Mesut Ozil, because that actually takes us on very nicely to the final category. So the final category is quite similar to the football IQ a little bit, but it's vision. Who would you say has got the best vision?
I'd say you've got Adam Lallana now. So I'd say I've played against him a few times, and obviously, seeing his quality for Liverpool. I think he's kind of just starting to find his way with Brighton. And I think his vision is fantastic. He's a fantastic player. As I said, I've played against him quite a few times when he's at Southampton and he's always really impressed me. So hopefully he can kind of say find his way now and start hopefully kind of contributing and creating more for the team.
Did he do many Cruyff turns whilst he played against you?
He did a few.
He loves a Cruyffie.
He came to tackle me, and I think I flicked over his head and ran past him, and then.
Oh, unbelievable! Have that, Adam. Have that.
That's one thing Adam Lallana won't catch you with, is your pace.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, amazing. All right, mate, that's class. So just to sort of round up then. So your perfect player with finishing would be Joa, Tariq Lamptey's pace, Vicente's footballing IQ, Adam Elab's leadership, your own work rate, and Lallana's vision. So that's a pretty decent player. Yeah.
Sounds very good to me.
I'll take that all day long. If we can replicate that in the lab, that'll be amazing. So if any scientists out there want to try and give us a go,
after you get a vaccine for COVID, then build a player.
Get a vaccine for the perfect Brighton player. That's all.
Yeah. Are you taking the vaccine, Craig? If you're giving it, you taking it?
Probably not. I look after myself well. I eat right. I do everything I can right, and it's just my personal preference. It's not something I feel that I need to take. I've got if people feel that they feel better for it and they want to take it, then fantastic. That's down to them. But for me personally, it's not something that I'm going to do.
You're an absolute Iron Man. I don't think you need it, Craig. Anyway, yeah, don't think you need it. Amazing. So then, and then just quickly, then I know we've kept you quite a while. So just a couple of sort of Brighton / not related to yourself. There's a couple of talking points. Now, the most sort of recent one actually happened today. So Joe Gomez was injured on international duty. So the big question is, should Ben White or Lewis Dunk, from what you've seen, or if you've seen much of them, I don't know, but do you think either of them deserve a place in the squad?
I think Dunkey does. Like, Dunkey's been so consistent over the last few years. Like, it baffles me how he hasn't got a call up and how he hasn't been in that England squad regularly. Like,
tell us about it, Craig. Tell us about it.
Players playing at bigger clubs who I don't think are anywhere near as good as Dunkey. So I don't quite understand it. I don't know why he isn't in there. I think he should be.
Do you think that's because of the small club bias? Do you think it's because of the size of Brighton, or do you not think that exists?
I don't know. When you look at it, it's like it's hard to say it doesn't count, because obviously, to say he's been one of the most consistent centre halves in the Premier League over the last few years. So whether he plays for Man United or whether he plays for Brighton, like he should be considered in the squad. When there's been other players that maybe probably haven't done as much as he's done. So I'm disappointed not to see him in there. I think he deserves it. And with Ben White, I don't know too much about him. I know obviously he's done fantastically well at Leeds, and I've seen kind of bits and pieces of him, and obviously people have kind of said he's the next big thing to come through. So I'm kind of looking forward to his progression, and hopefully Brighton can keep him, because I know I don't know, obviously it's tabloid rumours, but Liverpool were kind of sniffing around and stuff like that. So.
Especially now with Gomez out as well as Van Dijk. Yeah, be after him even more, I think.
Yeah, we tweeted about it earlier, actually. Yeah, we think, well, we've heard rumours that, I think they wanted him for 25 million. And then obviously Leeds were in for him as well. They got a couple of offers knocked back. So yeah, they're all sniffing around. So it's not looking good for us, but fingers crossed we can keep hold of him. I think it's good for his progression.
Good though, because obviously it shows what Brighton are producing. Like there's been players that have all come out and done really well. He's obviously gone out and done really well. Is it Aaron Connolly who's come through and still young, and he's come through the setup. So it shows what Brighton are producing. Obviously, he might go, which is just the way football is, and there'll be other people waiting in the wings to come through. So it's great to see, because that's what you want as a club, and as a young player, you want to be involved in a club that are allowing the youngsters to come through, and then actually kind of giving the youngsters chances to play, and then obviously selling them on when they've done well. So. Like for the young lads at Brighton, it's got to be a positive to see how the club is progressing that way.
No, definitely. And we've got
one thing that we must. Sorry, Mass. The one thing we must say, like about our club over the last few years, we're not a selling club. We never sell our best players. We never have done, and I don't think we ever will. I think that's just one of the things that Bloom and that have. And Barber.
I think you say that now, but Ryan, we're going to sell all our players now. Cheers, Ryan. You jinxed it.
Yeah, but you look at the Lewis Dunk situation back in, 15, 16? I remember he was linked to all sorts of clubs. I think Newcastle, West Brom, when they were in the Premier League and we were bottom of the Championship. We were still rejecting bids every single time, and we signed him on a new contract. So I think, with Ben White, I can't see us taking 25 million, because if they think he's that good, we wouldn't just take the first offer that comes. We'd be like, no, we're not going to let go of one of our best talents for 25 million, because I don't think that's how we work. That's how we work.
Yeah. No, definitely, I agree. No, I think it just shows well. We got Hayden Roberts coming through. We got Ostergaard. We got all these great young talents, like Craig was saying. So
full of centre halves.
Yeah. I think we've got 10 centre halves. So we're not short. We're not short in that department. Safe to say.
We have to put Dan Burn at left wing back, because we just.
Yeah. And then the final thing, then we're going to ask from you, Craig. Just quickly, I don't know again how much you've sort of been. Looking at us this season, but we've struggled in the striking department. So I think a stat we've got is here. Our shot accuracy is, I think, 27%, which is pretty mental stat. Right, yeah. So I think
everyone else.
Yeah, so it's a bit mental. I think it's one of the worst in the league.
It's the worst in the league.
Oh, it's the worst in the league. Right, there you go. What do you think? Like,
we've had 105 shots.
Yeah,
and we've scored, I think, 6 goals or 11 goals or something ridiculous.
Yeah, which is mental. So just quickly, like, how do you see our season panning out? And what do you think the reason is as to why we're not very sort of successful in front of goal at the moment as a striker?
I think the club will be fine. I've watched a few games and I always keep an eye on the results and on my Twitter feed and stuff. I've got lots of different things to tell me about what's going on at Brighton. So I think the club will be fine. I think you'd rather be getting loads of chances and missing them than be getting hardly any chances and not actually scoring. So like sooner or later these chances will go in. And with a forward as well, sometimes it becomes like you miss one. And then you kind of start snatching at another chance and snatching at another chance. And when the expectation is to score and keep the team afloat, it's sometimes you put pressure on you which you don't need to put on. So I wouldn't be too worried. As I said, if the team weren't producing chances and the strikers weren't getting chances, and then you can look at it and go, well, where are we going to get goals from? But at some stage, like that Malpai did well last season. He scored a few kind of beginning of the season. It's just kind of confidence, and then when one goes in, they all seem to kind of flow. So it is difficult. And again, as I said, like the fans play a big role. Like it's you want fans in there. Sometimes you need that pressure. Sometimes as a forward, you need pressure to score these goals. And I've always found it that when you go on a pitch of fans, it's easy to switch your brain off. But when you go into an empty stadium, there's nothing to switch your brain off to. It's almost like a reserve game, and kind of playing in a reserve game, there's no adrenaline, there's no emotion. It's really, really hard to kind of just let your brain flow. But when there's a crowd, for some reason, your brain just switches off, and it allows you just to go and do what you do naturally. So I think if hopefully you can get crowds back in soon, and that will help. But as I said, like I think they'll be fine. Keep creating chances, and the goals will follow.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. Fingers crossed. We'll see what happens. And I think, just before we let you go, I think the chaps have got a couple of things they want to show you. I think. I'll stitch them up basically, Craig. I've stitched them both up, but they both got actual pictures with you when they're younger. So just before you show it. Oh, okay. Well then, go on.
It's too late. We've done it.
Yeah, there you go. Look at that.
That was Thomas Kujak.
Got Craig, me or Ben?
Definitely you, mate.
It's brilliant. Like it's to kind of been in the game for so long, and you say you kind of have pictures of people and stuff like that, and then to kind of see the difference like 10 years later is brilliant. Like it's just like wonderful to see that people kind of support the game, support their team, and then say to kind of have a chat and still kind of see you have the same dedication and kind of support for your team. It's awesome. Like I love it. I love seeing like old pictures of me like make me go wow, like and you kind of remember these situations you kind of go into, and sometimes you meet people and remember them, and it's brilliant as a player to interact with the fans. It's great.
Class. Yeah, no,
Craig, I have to say, do you remember the match attacks thing at Holmbush?
I do.
You released do you remember it?
I do remember.
I believe it was 2012-13 season.
Something like that. And I'm annoyed with match attacks though, because they put my head on Gordon Greer's body and then put it.
Really? Madness! I've got that card. I think you gave me it and you signed it at the time, and you gave me. I don't know. I think it's in one of my drawers.
Yeah.
But unbelievable. That's not actually your body. That's just your head.
It's my head stuck on Gordon Greer's body. So
oh my god,
that's amazing.
I'll bin it for you, Craig. I'll bin it.
Yeah. But I feel a bit bad now that I'm the only one without a picture. So I'm just gonna take this. I'm gonna take a screenshot of this this podcast and have that as my picture. So we all had a picture with you. So that's all good. But no, honestly, you've been amazing. Like some amazing stories, especially the Barry Fry pregnancy story. That was just mental. That was a personal highlight for me. But no, it's been incredibly insightful, and we really appreciate your time. And we wish you all the luck in non-league. With your new club, and of course with your new company as well. So whenever that gets running, let us know, and we're more than happy to get it plugged and stuff like that. So no, really appreciate your time. I'm sure the chaps do as well.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. I've really enjoyed it.
Class. Thank you very much. No, definitely. It's been class. And of course, make sure for everyone's listening and watching, make sure you do subscribe and like the video. It does really help with the reach, as well as follow us on all our socials, Seagulls Social, and of course follow Craig as well on all his socials as well. Give him some love. I'm sure he'll appreciate it.
YouTube video. If you haven't, they'll be in there.
Yeah, exactly. Give him a follow as well. We really appreciate it. But no, we hope you all enjoyed it. And again, once again, thanks, Craig, and we'll see you next week.